Okay, let's say we have a problem, and what it says is, based on data, the researcher constructed the following probability distribution for the number of tires that were defective on 4-year-old cars, and let X equal the number of defective tires. So if we're talking about cars, and cars have 4 tires, so you could have none defective, 0, 1 defective, 2 defective, 3 defective, or 4 defective, and here are the probabilities based on the research this person did. And so the question is, find the mean and the standard deviation of the distribution. So in order to do that, we can use Excel to do this. And so what I'm going to do is copy and paste these numbers in this table into an Excel spreadsheet. So here's my Excel, and I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to paste these, and here are the numbers in Excel. So here are my numbers, X and P of X. So to find the mean, remember we have to do the mean is equal to X times P of X. Just so that you remember that's the formula for the mean. Okay? So to find the mean, what we have to do is first we have to multiply these two. So in cell C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this X times P of X, just so we know what we're doing. X times P of X. And so what do we do? Well, in this cell right below, I'm going to go equal formula mode this cell A2 times B2, and that gives me the first value of X times P of X. And normally I like to center this stuff. Okay, and once we do one cell, so notice A2 times B2, just the value times its probability, the value of X times probability. Then I'm just going to pull this down, and there's all the values of X times their respective probabilities. And all we have to do now here on the bottom cell is sum them. So equal sum, open parentheses, these numbers in the cells above it, close the parentheses, and there's my mean. So my mean of this distribution is 1.57. Okay. The next one we want to find is the standard deviation. But in order to find standard deviation, we first have to find the variance. So how do you find the variance? The variance is equal to, remember what we do is we do x squared, I'm just doing this shorthand notation here, x squared times P of X, and then minus the mean squared. So I've just put it there to remind us here. The variance is x squared times P of X minus the mean squared. That's the shortcut to find the variance. So somewhere here I have to find x squared. So I'm going to go out a little bit to separate it. X squared. What is x squared? X squared, and my next cell is equal to these values squared, caret 2, and that gives me 0. And once I do 1, I just pull it down, and then I get the squares of my x values. So that's what this column here, the E column, says x squared. The next thing we want to do is x squared times P of X. So again, x squared times P of X, and so in my next cell equal, I'm going to do it in the order in which they appear in the row. So P of X appears first in B2, so equals B2 times E2. Enter. That's my first x squared times P of X, which is always going to be 0 because my first value of X is 0 in this case. Then I copy and paste this down, and there's x squared times P of X. I centered it. And what do we have to do? Actually, I forgot on my formula, in both of these formulas down here, we have to put the sum, right? That's what we're doing. The sum of all this stuff. And so down on the variance, we have to sum x squared times P of X, and then subtract off the square of the mean. So on both of those, don't forget, we're summing them up. So here I have x squared times P of X, sum those up. So on the bottom here I go equal sum open parentheses, highlight the cells you want to sum, close the parentheses, enter. So this is the sum. But in this case, this is not the variance, because the variance, in order to get the variance, you have to take this and subtract the mean squared. We already have the mean of 1.57. So in some other cell, and maybe I'll do it right here, variance, right next to it, I'm going to go equal, how do I get this variance? This number I just have, subtract, minus, that's a dash, this number, which is the mean, which is in C7, but I have to square C7 too, so put a caret to the 2 power, enter. This is my variance. So what's my variance? My variance is 1.8451, and now we can find the standard deviation. And how do we find the standard deviation? STD DEV for the distribution, for a probability distribution like this, which is discrete. You just take this variance number equal this variance number and you square root it, raise to the 0.5, raise to the 0.5, and so my standard deviation is 1.358345, and my mean is 1.57. And so here you have how we do this in Excel.